Hey, have you ever wondered where the term computer bug actually comes from? Like, why do we call software problems bugs? Well, grab your coffee, because today we're diving into a real-life story from the early days of computing, where the first ever documented computer bug wasn't a coding mistake, it was something totally unexpected. It was an actual bug. Yeah, a real insect. Let me explain. The year is 1947. We're at Harvard University, where some of the brightest minds are working on one of the most advanced computers of its time, the Harvard Mark II. This thing wasn't like the sleek laptops or smartphones we have today. It was a massive electromechanical computer, taking up an entire room with thousands of relays, switches, and vacuum tubes working together. One day, the machine starts acting weird. It's giving incorrect calculations, glitching, and just not working right. The engineers, including a brilliant woman named Grace Hopper, get to work. Now, if you don't know who Grace Hopper is, she's an absolute legend in computing. We're talking about a pioneer in programming, the US Navy Rear Admiral, and the person who basically helped invent modern programming languages. But back to the bug. As the engineers dig into the computer, checking every component, they finally find the culprit. And guess what it was? A moth. Yep, you heard it right. A small, literal moth had flown into the system and got stuck in one of the relays, causing the entire computer to malfunction. And here's the crazy part. They didn't just fix the issue and move on. They actually documented it in their logbook, taping the poor moth onto the page with a handwritten note that said, "First actual case of bug being found." And just like that, the term debugging became part of computer history. Now, imagine this moment. It's 1947. Computers aren't even something regular people know about yet. There's no internet, no personal PCs, just these giant experimental machines that only a few people in the world understand. And here's this tiny moth, completely unaware that it's about to become a legend. The engineers probably laughed about it at first. After all, it was such a ridiculous yet perfect moment. But as they continued working, this idea of bugs in machines stuck around. I want to give you a fun fact. Grace Hopper loved telling this story. She'd bring it up in her lectures and interviews, using it as a fun way to explain why debugging is so important in programming. And here's something even cooler. She didn't just shape computer history with this story. This is where the story gets even better, because Grace Hopper wasn't just known for finding the first bug. She was one of the greatest pioneers in programming. She invented the first compiler, the tool that lets humans write code in words instead of machine language. Without this, modern programming languages wouldn't exist. Also, she helped develop COBOL, one of the earliest programming languages still in use today in some banks and government systems. Moreover, she shaped how we use computers today. Before her, people thought programming should only be done in complex machine code. She believed computers should be easy to use, paving the way for modern software. And guess what? Even after retiring from the Navy, she continued working with tech companies well into her 70s, mentoring the next generation of programmers. So yeah, she was kind of a big deal. Now, did Grace Hopper invent the word bug? Not exactly. The term bug was already used by engineers and inventors before computers even existed. Thomas Edison wrote about bugs in his notebooks as early as the 1800s, referring to issues in electrical circuits. Railroad engineers used the term to describe mechanical problems in steam engines. But this moth, this moment, it was the first documented literal computer bug. And that's what made it legendary. Today, the original bug, the moth itself, is preserved at the Smithsonian Museum. You can actually see it in person. And now, every time your code crashes, or your app freezes, or your Wi-Fi just won't connect, you can thank that tiny moth for giving us a word for the madness, bug. And let's be honest, sometimes it feels like real bugs are messing with our code, right? So, next time you're debugging your code, just remember, you could be digging through a massive room-sized computer looking for a literal insect. I hope you found this story cool. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, and if you want more awesome tech history stories, subscribe for more. And hey, what's the most annoying bug you've ever encountered in a program? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, happy debugging.